YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We've got the Rafale 80. This one has the Reflex V2. Absolutely beautiful plane. If you guys like flying high alpha, you'll love this. And yes, the canards actually do act as elevators. And yes, even with a regular 6-channel receiver, you get all the mixing through the mixing board, which is nice. In this particular plane, we've got a Lemon 6-channel stabilized, unstabilized receiver. And the Reflex is doing the heavy lifting of stabilizing this aircraft. Now, we didn't set up any mode, so we don't have any way to change the mode. And just so you guys can see, this thing is pretty big. It's an 80, and I want to make sure I have plenty of room to take off. So I've come down to this spot here. Just so you guys know, this is 275 feet straight ahead to the end of the runway. And we're at a bit of an incline here. So it'll be like taking off of a British airship. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Aircraft carrier, there we go. Woo-wee! Holy cow.
Wow.
That was so jankety yankety. Okay, out of the gear. Keeping her flying. Lots of trim. Now I finally got it so I can slow down a little bit. LEDs help a lot. Look at that thing wiggle waggle. Listen to the howl. It's so strange. Voltage alarm is beeping. This is a 7000 6S Smart Pack. And this one here is a Spectrum product, of course. It's a Smart Pack, Gen 1 with a balance lead. Look at those lights, super handy. You guys have never flown the Rafale. It is a different flying creature, guys. It is definitely something you need to try once, if not own one yourself. The 64 millimeter was on sale. This one I think is on sale right now, if I'm saying it. Look at all the dragonflies, holy crap. It's gonna be like a bird strike if I hit them. Let's just go ahead and go up and do that. Now this 7000 is heavy in here. Just so you guys know, I wouldn't necessarily suggest a 7000, but I just wanted something with a little bit of power to it. Because to be honest with you, I need a little bit of flight time on this thing, otherwise I don't enjoy it. And so there we go. And it's got a very strange scream to it. And the Reflex V2 is doing just fine. Okay, guys? Going up. By the way, we haven't modified this in any weird way. We're using our stock parts. Everything is pretty much basic. And as you can see, you can do all sorts of aerobatic maneuvers. Some of our competitors on YouTube have made a lot of changes to theirs and done some really cool stuff with them, admittedly. But we're not here to show you necessarily some sort of a bag of tricks on this plane. We just want you to see the way it's gonna come to you from the factory. Right overhead. Oh, that's so cool. And yes, you do have enough elevator authority to get out of the high alpha. That's very nice. The 64 leaves you wanting in that regard. 1 minute left on the 3.5 minute timer. We'll probably be a little bit respectful of that, but I do want to do a little bit of high alpha here. See this, guys? A little bit of high alpha, and then throttle to get out of it and jank the nose down and you'll be fine. I'm just gonna turn it around here over the back of the property. Okay. You guys hear the beeping? Gear are coming down. Just giving it a couple of bursts of throttle. There it is. She's down. Whoa, whoa. And I gotta say, ooh. Okay, so rolling off the driveway, you can see just how rough our grass strip is. Hope my vertical stabilizer's not broken. And as you can see, the thing is janky as all get out on landing, okay? I'm gonna tell you, that part made it very hard on takeoff, okay? But otherwise, we're fine. I think we're good on the vertical stab. Looks like this missile kind of bent a little bit. Oh, there we go, we're fine. But otherwise, as you can see, if you were gonna do anything on this plane, from a straight bone stock setup, you might take this and move it from the outside hole to the inside hole so you get less intense steering authority. Or this might be one of those times where you have a cool and creative enough plane that you can actually set up an 8-channel receiver and split your rudder and your nose gear, okay? That would also give you an extra channel to control your modes. So you can have auto leveling on this, as you know, because the Reflex V2 will do that. But what you don't have is you don't have that scary syndrome where you get into high alpha and you have no power to get out of it like you do on the 64mm counterpart of this Rafale, the Dassault Rafale. So if you're flying the gray one and you love it and you haven't had that problem yet, just wait longer. Get into high alpha, eventually you're gonna get locked, and the only thing you can do is just let it fall. And once it falls, then hopefully you fall the way you can fly out of it, okay? This one is much easier to control in high alpha. You've got the rudder that can help tip you, and there's enough thrust, enough power to weight ratio to actually get you out of the hole when you want to. And also, can you cycle the gear?
I can, yes.
Look at these sweet landing gear. They are really sweet, and we do that also to just show it didn't get damaged there. Okay, go ahead and cycle them again. These are all aluminum, oleo, true functional, spring-loaded landing gear. And they are to angle, and we've got this really cool livery. But I gotta admit, guys, on landing, when I roll off to the side, I just wanna show you this. This is so janky on ground handling. It's like really bad. That's probably the worst part of the plane. So keep it on the mains as long as you can. And it does relax into a perfect flare. You don't really have to do anything. Even when you're out of auto leveling, it relaxes into that flare, okay? It comes in and it just starts slowly doing this no matter what you do. That's good and bad. But as you could see, all I had to do was give it a couple of puffs and it was fine. If I would have kept it straight on the runway, it would have been fine, but we have a big jump here, okay? So I'm just gonna show you some taxiing, okay? This is very slow taxiing. Let's see if we can get the thumb at the same time. Look at the differential in my thumb position. Look how sharp you can turn. I mean, that looks sweet and it's nice that you can do that, but the thing is, that is just way too much. And so I could fix that potentially with doing a mechanical adjustment to get the thing aligned a little bit better. I could also turn around and do a little bit more expo on just the rudder. And that would help me take care of that. Like maybe I could set it up. And then also I didn't even use the air brakes. Those air brakes, they do help to slow the plane down, but really my experience with this Rafale has been you don't need to slow the plane down. The plane slows itself down. And that is if you trim the plane enough, it's going to kind of settle into this routine where it just starts slowly rolling into a flare, okay? Now, I like that because with this plane, I feel like it gets a little bit crazy when you start going fast. Because the more fast you go with this thing, those forward-facing canards, here comes the cat to inspect the plane. Let's see if we can scare the crap out of her. Watch this. You're gonna quickly lose interest. This is Callie. She's our most aggressive cat.
She thinks she runs the place.
Well, but you see the cats on the side of this? There's actually a panther on it.
There is, yeah.
So guys, sorry about the cat distraction. It happens here on Brian Phillips RC. We're actually dog people that have cats, so we don't know what we're doing with them, much like other things in life, but that's okay. You guys be the judge of that. One thing I can tell you is that my experience with the Rafale has been that it is a fun plane. It is very different flying, okay? If you're expecting an everyday flyer, you're gonna be flying very different. This is definitely not a beginner plane. I don't care what the other experts tell you. I'm not an expert, but I can tell you that from personal experience with hundreds of planes. This plane flies weird, it's expensive to battery, and it's not forgiving in certain ways. While other ways, it's very forgiving. Weirdly enough, it's pretty easy to land, but you gotta get there first.
Yeah.
Okay, guys? And I say that totally seriously. I'm not saying you're a bad pilot if you have trouble with the Rafale, because I have trouble with the Rafale. It just flies a lot different. And this would be the plane where I would really pretty much prefer to tear out all the electronics, even though it's got that cool mix. I don't need that mix. What I really want is I want to refine and control the stabilizer. That's not so easy on the Reflex, okay? So pros, cons. Very big, beautiful, and well lit, which helps when you drop down over tree lines and things like that. Big cons. Why does this plane have so much authority on the rudder? And I can tell you why. Because you want to be able to get out of high alpha. And so bigger rudder makes that happen. But I do need it to be a little bit more tame on takeoff and landing. So I'm not sure if you can do that easily with the reflex, short of moving that control arm position from the outside hole, which is the maximum deflection, to the inside hole, which would be the minimum deflection. You can also probably on the other side, there might be some adjustment, but I don't think there was on this assembly. So just keep those things in mind when you're buying this. Also, I would say if there was a time for maybe not going with a 30C Smart Pack, it might be on the Rafale. And we've seen it on a couple of, this is actually a singular 80, okay? So it's not actually a double, okay? I'm glad about that because doubles kill batteries. Even high voltage packs suffer. But I do think that if there was a time for high voltage pack, it buys you just a little bit more juice when you really want it. And when you want it is when you're trying to recover from a screw up that you made. Again, also, everybody is at where they are as a pilot, okay? So if I'm on this spectrum of piloting and you've got, you know, these like 16-year-old kids that fly at Joe Nall over here, that are like the best pilots in the world, and you've got, you know, like the very beginner over here, like babies that aren't even born yet, and then you've got somewhere in here, you've got me, like with the other teenage kids that are learning to fly. And then you've got the guys that have been flying for 30, 40 years, and they still haven't caught up to the 16-year-old, you know. On the spectrum, everybody's somewhere, okay? And I'm talking spectrum here, I'm talking spectrum here. This plane is just so different to me that I just don't even know if I want to know how to fly it compared to the others. I like the difference, but it's not my cup of tea, and so I don't do it a lot, admittedly. The reason we're filming this now is because we know there's a special, and we want you guys to take advantage of a special. If you love the Rafale, and many of you do, we want you to get the special. Even if this isn't my favorite cup of tea, it's still a cool cup of tea, and I'm very glad to be flying this cup of tea. It's just not maybe my favorite flavor. So, truth be told, when you get into these bigger, more expensive EDF jets, I almost feel like it's a love it or hate it scenario, and I've seen it before on my own personal opinion of planes, and I try not to inject that too thick on planes like this because it is a really well done plane. You saw how I handled that bump off of the runway, yeah, which by the way, it wasn't the plane's fault. I mean, I could have adjusted that if I would have known, but at the end of the day, it definitely did take it. Well, I mean, it didn't break in half. A lesser plane would break. So we've broken them before. Look at this cat now. Yes, this cat is like, hey, I'm going to dig a deeper hole so that your plane crashes worse next time. Yes. Okay, so other thoughts. It's not cheap to battery this one. So if you want the Rafale feel, but you don't want to spend this kind of cash, go for the 64, okay? It's going to give you a very similar feel in air. It's going to come in and flare on landings, which is very strange and cool. And it's what you expect is going to happen on every single jet you have, and it won't do it except for on planes that are Delta like this. And to be honest with you, it's a really kind of a cool experience. When you grace a landing with one of these planes, you're going to feel great, okay? If you're on this part of the spectrum, if you're over here like 16-year-old flying a Joe Nall professional pilot, you probably like, whatever, I do that all day. Right. But when you're like me and you're not that good, you feel pretty good about it. So anyway, chasing that feeling is one of the best and most exciting parts of this hobby. And what I'm going to implore you to do is if you really even remotely want to support Brian Phillips RC, smash the like button right now and buy this plane if you think you like it. If you don't like this plane, buy one that's similar, maybe that's going to give you the same feel. Obviously, you're watching this video to this point, so you've got something to say about the Rafale. Maybe it's that you hate it and you wanted to see me crash, but unfortunately for you, I did not crash into any trees, and that thing does look good from a distance, doesn't it?
It is a cool looking plane.
It's a cool looking plane. Oh, and then also one other thing we've learned. Okay, we talk pros and cons here. We're not fastest, bestest, cheapest BS. That's a waste of your time. We have noticed that jets take a lot more space to store. Yeah. Period. Now, you could close the gear and you could stack them pretty tight, but you still have vertical stabilizers and ventral fins and things like that. This one has a very flat bottom, so it stores good and it transports good. Also, you can take the wings off in a few seconds. You got a couple of bolts on both sides and then they come out. Joiner comes out and it's pretty small. But it's not a huge plane and it's easy to tap. Like if you got an SUV, you can get it up into a corner. You can take the nose off and goes in there nicely and it sits flat. Throw a beanbag on there, you can get another plane upside down on top of it, no problem. Some jets are really, really hard to transport because they're very awkward to carry. This one's not bad. So lots of pros, lots of cons. you know, I think it's a net win. It's a good plane. It's not one I would say don't buy it because it's just garbage. We honestly don't see that very often, and you guys know that if you watch our channel a lot, because we try to find the hole that this particular product would fill, okay? This is a cool plane. It's just not my cup of tea, the flying style. And there's people that love this flying style. They die for it. And they're like, oh, I just want to do Cobras all day. Fine, that's cool. Go ahead and do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to poo-poo that experience. The pilots that love doing Cobras all day, that's cool and that's fine. But I don't want to fly high voltage packs all the time. Maybe someday I will be changed-minded like I was with smart packs. So that time may be coming sooner than later. But all I'm gonna say is, if you don't wanna buy this plane, you wanna buy something else. When you buy from the links, you do really support Brian Phillips RC. And it's not just with the few bucks in commission from FMS or Horizon Hobby or whoever it happens to be. It is about building relationships in the hobby community where we can bring truth to you. And yes, of course, make a few bucks to help fund this channel, because it is a huge, huge time commitment. You guys probably don't realize that, but it's not filming a half-an-hour video. It's filming a 6 or 7 hour video, and it's spending 20 or 30 or 50 hours a week for 2 adults to manage this. So the truth is, you guys see the tip of the iceberg, and we do love that part too, unless it's 115 degrees.
Yeah.
And we crashed a plane in a tree. I think we have a tractor going by. Totally was not a tractor, it's a four-wheeler. So anyway, guys, in closing, what I want you guys to know is the FMS Rafale 80 is a cool plane. It's got lots of well-done features. It's definitely not a throwaway. It's definitely hobby grade. It is definitely well done. May not be my cup of tea, but even within that sphere of not my cup of tea, it's got LEDs, it's got flaps, even though they're not technically flaps on a Delta Wing. It's got all the things that we complain about on planes that we don't like, but it just flies different, as it should. And so for that reason, I say, if you like it, buy it, and buy it now, because it's on sale now. And if you're watching this video after the sale ended, all I can say is I'm really sorry. Click the bell for notifications so that you can get notified of these discounts, because we want you to stretch your RC budget as far as you possibly can and get as many planes as your wife will let you bring into the house. Also, I want you to know this. Check out brianphillipsrc.com to see these specials. Also, right there, you can click on the link to the airplane battery receiver that we picked for our particular application. And there's gonna be times, I understand, you wanna do a little bit different here, a little different there. No big deal, no harm, no foul. Or maybe you've got a great local hobby shop you wanna support. If you can't buy the plane from our links, throw us a couple of bucks and make up for it. You got PayPal if you wanna do it that way. We got Patreon's monthly support. We have YouTube members, that's monthly support, and then super thanks. All of which are much appreciated, but we still prefer the former, because when you guys help keep this circuit of the ecosystem going, it keeps bringing content to you. Because if they're happy that we're helping to sell products, whatever that looks like, and you're happy to keep buying the products that are better than what you might otherwise buy from the Chinese competitor, then everybody wins. And that's what we're after here, is to expand the hobby, get people in the hobby, get people back in the hobby, get people off the couch, off the toilet, off the office chair, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you're sitting watching these videos. We want to get you flying RC just like we are, and you're gonna love it. So also, if you're a brand new pilot, just don't buy this one, okay? It's not for you yet. If you buy it, you'll be disappointed. So you're gonna end up being a one and done. It's a very different flying experience too. So if you learn to fly on this, you're a special kind of RC pilot. But truth is, get yourself a simulator if you want to keep it really cheap, but even better, get yourself a couple of beginner planes. We got beginner lists for you right on Brian Phillips RC. We've been recommending a lot of the same planes for a long time. If one's out of stock that you think you really love, find another one. There's several that are really good that you'll probably love equally. Get in the air, get flying. It's not going to be any quicker if you wait 6 months. You are going to be 6 months behind on your timeline for learning to fly, okay? And I only say this from personal experience, guys, not trying to beat you over the head. Get it done, and get it done today, because you don't know if a beer truck or an ATV is gonna run you over tomorrow. You just never know. It could happen. So that's all I'm gonna say on that topic, that morbid topic. But at the end of the day, we love flying these RC airplanes and doing the cars and trucks and all the stuff that we do here, and the leaf blowers and tractors and things.
E-bikes.
E-bikes. We know you guys love those. You have a special place in your heart for them. But at the end of the day, we wouldn't be doing it if you weren't coming back. And so we have to say thank you yet again to our amazing supporters and partners out there in YouTube world. If you're one of our Patreons, thank you for being loyal to us, for supporting us. It's real, it's genuine when you hear it from me. And you guys that are Patreons, you already get this because you have had a little bit more interaction with me than maybe some of the public audience. But I'm just gonna say this, when you guys help support us, it really does indebted us to you even more than we already are, just because you're watching this amazing content, because you guys are helping us to live a dream, okay? And we don't forget about that. We try not to forget about that. But you guys are really providing for an entire family actually right now, at least a good chunk of what we need. And that's very much appreciated. In fact, speaking of chunks of what we need, we're gonna be putting a pond back there so we can fly and do some more float ops, so we can do some boat ops. We're gonna try to find as many e-bikes that ride on the water as possible.
Is there an e-paddle boat?
You can't give it away. We can't talk about that yet. We have NDAs. Just kidding, guys. We don't have NDAs, but if you sell electric paddle boats, you need to get a hold of us as soon as possible. But seriously, big chunks, it's gonna be a big chunk. Like way bigger than it should be, but probably the right size given it's 2023. Because you know how airplanes got more expensive during COVID?
Yeah, so did dirt, apparently.
Everything else. And to the tune of like what we were expecting to spend for 5, 6, 7 times. But we're committed to this channel, and the things that we want to do on this channel include water, and they include that, and they include an extension of the runway with a helipad. I keep telling my wife about the helipad.
You just keep throwing it in conversation like it's just an assumed thing. Like when we have the helipad,
part of it.
Well, yeah, right.
The helipad will be down there, and then it's going to connect to the dam road. And then next to the dam road will be the dam building. And then past the dam building will be the full-scale runway. And I would draw a picture, but I can't draw a picture out here.
Whatever.
I'll draw a picture.
Like superimpose the picture.
We'll superimpose the picture? Okay, all right. It's coming sooner or later. But truth is, we've been working on engineering since March.
There's a lot of
2023.
Damn paperwork.
March of 2023.
It's
until August, mid-August, later than mid-August. And we've only had one physical task done, and that was a topo map was taken. So we spent the first dollars and cents. And the next ripcord, so to speak, meaning it would disqualify the pond from happening, is the drill rig, where we bring in a drill rig and we core sample to see if the ground will support the pond. So all you people on YouTube that are spending like $10,000 for a pond, please seriously hit me up, because I want to find out what type of voodoo magic you're using, because we're going to have a lot more than that just in engineering. And it's painful. But we're gonna do it because it's gonna be good for the channel and you guys are gonna love it. And honestly, it's gonna be amazing. So we can't wait to do it. The Rafale is gonna look so cool going across a waterway. Wait, like 40 people have already done that. Okay, well, we're not gonna do that because they did it already.
Okay.
And speaking of those guys that did that, if you wanna see these things souped up and decked out, we used to do more of it, but we got to the point where we almost felt like we were misleading people because of what we were doing. If we had flaps, we try to show you how we did it. It's a really easy process. It's not like some major mod. I'm not gonna buy a $600 plane and replace every servo in it. I'm not stupid. And if you do, you're not stupid either. Go ahead, do what you gotta do. Just follow our links when you do it. But that being said, we try to bring it, no BS, fastest, greenest, you know, longest, whatever. That's stupid, that's a waste of your time. These things perform how they perform. And by the way, on 7006S, this thing's probably a little bit too nose heavy, admittedly. And I have it crammed in there as tight as I could. I could not get it any further back. I mean, there's those little plastic things that protect the canard linkages, and I could not get it back any further. I tried hard. So maybe 5,000 is better on this plane, because I felt like, you know, to get the CG where we had it marked previously, it would have needed to go back. Also, we didn't crash. Just wanted to point that out, sort of.
Like
I mean, it rolled off the edge.
Bad landing. And it wasn't even a bad landing.
And it was like, It reminds me of the F-1880 from E-Flight. If you guys remember that, that one had a major problem like this. If you give it any rudder input on takeoff, you might as well, because those linkages on the back here would allow it to tip up like this. You'd be scraping your missiles on the ground. So if this is brand new to you, and you're trying to follow along the details we've given you, just like I said, move that one linkage, it'll make a big difference. But you won't be able to make sweet, awesome turns just like this. That does look sweet. And this is a very narrow part of, you know, this is a wide part of our runway, but you can turn on the narrowest part and still make it happening. Pretty sweet. All right, guys, that's all you get for tonight. Thanks for listening to me jabber about things that are important to us, because you guys are important to us, and that's what I was jabbering about partially. So come back for more. There is literally more, so much more that I can't explain it, and it's coming to you anytime soon. The short run times are not by accident. We want you to know what's out there. We want you to know what's on sale so you can take full advantage of it. So stay tuned. So much more from Brian Phillips, RC.